How do you envision training helping leaders address specific cultural and leadership challenges within an organization?
I think training is but one piece of the puzzle. So we can teach them some of the skills that they might be lacking, like how to give feedback, that is candid, kind, and constructive. That's something that we can teach, but then we need the coaching and the mentoring to kind of reinforce that. And
Hmm.
we need the other levers, which is the appreciation recognition layer and the performance management layer to reinforce those. Because
Hmm.
I can teach you how to give feedback that is candid, kind, and constructive, but you can still go out and be an absolute asshole about it and not do the feedback the way that we've taught you. And if you don't do the feedback the way that we've taught you, you're going to create a place where people are afraid of feedback or afraid of speaking up. And so we need those other levers. So training, when we talk training, I'm thinking, we're not talking about a facilitated workshop where people are, or coaching where people are kind of, where you're the guide on the side and they're coming to their own insights and they're learning from each other.
Hmm.
Training for me is old school. I teach you a skill. I teach you the grow coaching model. I teach you how to give feedback.
Hmm.
So training is but one part of it. It's an
Hmm.
integral part, but where it really comes to life is through the coaching, the mentoring, and the measuring, whether it is through ongoing employee listening and the
Hmm.
data that we can get, or whether it is then through the results of 360-degree feedback, performance management kind of stuff. Are you actually applying what you learned? Because if you're
Hmm.
not applying what you learned, we're not going to see the needle shifting.
If you have to be my student forever, I'm doing a very bad job.
Very bad job. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've had cases where, I've worked with groups, where we do like manager training and leadership development, where it's like a hybrid thing.
Hmm.
And we meet, say, once every 2 weeks. And
Hmm.
then I'll ask them, so at the end of a session, I'll say, right, so what are you going to do differently when you go back into the workplace now? And then, people are like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then when we meet in 2 weeks' time, it's like, right, okay, so what did you apply? And then some of them are like, oh no, I was too busy to. And I'm like, what do you mean you were too busy? But of course, you don't say that on the session in front of everyone. But then you have other groups where you will teach the same stuff. For instance, feedback that is candid, kind, and constructive is one of the big things that I find is very useful for managers to learn because they don't know how to do it. And I've had people literally be like, "Oh my God, I'm actually going to use this. I'm meeting a friend of mine tonight, and I'm actually going to use this model on them." And then when we meet again, it's like, okay, so last time you said you were meeting a friend, did you use the model? And then you have a Tim speak up and say, oh my God, I did. And it worked so well. And
Hmm.
that's great. And again, that's the power of not just teaching something, because you've always got those people in the room who aren't the early adopters and aren't willing to try it until they
Hmm.
know that some of their colleagues have tried it and it
Hmm.
worked.
Right.
So having that community and that place where people can come and talk and share, that also reinforces the learning, because Tim might have not been willing to do something until he heard at least one or two of his colleagues had tried it and it worked.
Hmm. Well, that's good too because
And
it's social proof, right? It's
yes,
not it's
yes,
not just hypothetical, but this person who has no investment in selling it because they were sold the same thing as you. When a
exactly.
coworker, somebody you've known for a decade or decades says, "Look, I took that stuff we just learned and I used it and it worked," they'll believe that person way more
More
than
than
the
they'll believe
trainer.
me.
Yeah,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. And they have
So
every
that
reason to.
is, yeah, and that's where the magic happens. And that's why I'm such a big proponent as well of the ongoing coaching and mentoring within the organization,
Hmm.
because it is more effective and more valuable
Hmm.
than investing in the external things.